We all face challenges, deadlines, expectations, people who underestimate us. But imagine your biggest challenge being your husband, a king who had 2 of his wives executed. How do you keep your head, literally, when your life hangs by a thread every single day? Catherine Parr faced this unimaginable pressure and emerged victorious. Her story isn't just history. It's a masterclass in resilience and strategic thinking that's still relevant today. Because in a world ruled by power, fear, and betrayal, Catherine Parr didn't just survive, she outsmarted one of the most dangerous men in history. Catherine Parr, the Tudor queen who survived. Henry VIII had been through 5 wives before Catherine Parr. 2 divorced, 2 executed, 1 died giving birth. By the time Catherine entered his life in 1543, he was older, ill, and paranoid. His temper was infamous, his ego wounded, his court full of whispers. Catherine Parr was 31, older than his previous brides, widowed twice, and known not for beauty, but for intellect. She didn't want to marry him. She was already in love with another man, Thomas Seymour, the brother of Jane Seymour, Henry's 3rd wife. But when the King of England proposes, no isn't an answer that keeps your head. So she accepted and stepped into the most dangerous household in Europe. But Catherine wasn't entering blind. She had watched queens rise and fall. She knew survival in the Tudor court wasn't about love. It was about strategy. From the first day, she studied the game, and while others had tried to charm Henry, Catherine aimed for something different. Control through calm. Where others argued, she listened. Where others rebelled, she reasoned, and where others flattered, she educated. Her weapon wasn't beauty, it was intellect. Henry, suffering from leg ulcers and growing insecurity, found comfort in her composure. She soothed him, but never submitted blindly. In a court where men wielded swords, Catherine Parr wielded understanding. The Tudor court wasn't just a palace, it was a serpent's den, where religion, power, and gossip could kill faster than poison. Catherine, a secret Protestant sympathizer, had to live under a Catholic king who executed people for heresy. One wrong word could end her life, but she played her part perfectly, publicly loyal, privately reformist. While Henry's health declined, Catherine became more than a wife. She became his nurse, his advisor, and eventually, his regent. When Henry went to war in France, he left her in charge of the kingdom, a queen ruling England in a man's world, something unthinkable for the time. She signed royal decrees, managed finances, kept the peace. And she didn't just govern, she influenced. She championed education for women. She guided Henry's children, especially Princess Elizabeth, who would later become Elizabeth III. In a world that silenced women, Catherine gave them a voice, quietly, cleverly, and effectively. But power in Tudor England never came without enemies. Her growing confidence, her reformist leanings, and her influence over the king made her dangerous in the eyes of the conservatives. They began to whisper, and whispers, in Henry's court, had already killed queens. By 1546, Catherine Parr was living every Tudor queen's nightmare. Her enemies, the conservative faction led by Bishop Gardiner, had finally found her weak spot. They accused her of heresy, claiming she spread dangerous Protestant books and debated scripture with the king to undermine his authority. They forged documents, they gathered witnesses, and one afternoon, while Catherine was in her private chambers, she overheard guards speaking outside her door, carrying a warrant for her arrest. Imagine that moment. You're married to a man who killed 2 of his wives, and now the guards are coming for you. No trial, no warning, just the sound of footsteps and paper sealing your fate. But Catherine Parr didn't panic. She planned. That night, she approached Henry, who, by then, was growing suspicious of her theological interests. And she played the only card she had left: humility. She told him, "Your Majesty, I only spoke of religion to learn from you, not to instruct you." It was a masterstroke. Henry, flattered by the idea that he was the wise teacher and she the humble student, softened. When the guards came the next morning to arrest her, Henry turned cold and furious. Not at her, but at them. He tore up the warrant on the spot. Catherine had done the impossible. She saved her own life in the face of certain death. But something between them changed that day. She knew she would never truly be safe again. Henry's health continued to fail, and with it, his temper. But she had outlived the others. And in doing so, she won the deadliest game at court. In January 1547, Henry VIII died, and Catherine Parr, the sixth and final wife, finally exhaled. She had survived him, the only one. But survival didn't mean peace. As Dowager Queen, she remained in court life, guiding the young King Edward VI and the princesses, Mary and Elizabeth. Her influence, especially on Elizabeth, would shape England's future. She could have faded quietly into history. Instead, she made one last daring choice. She married again to Thomas Seymour, the man she had loved before Henry. It was a romantic but reckless decision. Thomas was ambitious, charming, and hungry for power. Soon, scandal followed. Whispers about Seymour's behavior toward Princess Elizabeth began to circulate. Inappropriate familiarity, dangerous flirtation. Catherine, heartbroken but pragmatic, distanced herself. She was pregnant for the first time in her life, at 35. But fate, once again, would not give her a peaceful ending. In 1548, she gave birth to a daughter, Mary Seymour, and died days later of childbirth complications. The survivor of Henry's court, taken not by politics, not by betrayal, but by nature. Her final words, recorded by witnesses, were haunting. "God, have mercy upon me and save me, for I have done many things too simply." Catherine Parr's story could have ended quietly, another queen lost in the endless drama of Henry VIII's life. But her influence lasted far beyond the Tudor throne. She became the first woman in English history to publish under her own name. Her books on faith and devotion, prayers or meditations, and lamentations of a sinner were revolutionary. Not because of theology alone, but because a woman had dared to write, print, and sign her thoughts in an age when women's opinions were meant to stay hidden. She didn't just survive Henry, she survived history itself, turning from a footnote in his story to a figure in her own right. Through Elizabeth, she shaped a future monarch's mind. Through her books, she shaped a nation's conscience. And through her quiet defiance, she redefined what survival could mean. Catherine Parr's power was not in rebellion. It was in restraint, not in noise, but in endurance. She lived at the heart of a storm and learned to move with it, not against it. And maybe that's what true resilience is. Not escaping the fire, but learning how to walk through it without losing yourself. So the next time you face a challenge that feels impossible, remember the queen who lived every day knowing her life depended on a man's temper and still found a way to write, to love, to teach, and to leave a mark no one could erase. Catherine Parr wasn't just Henry VIII's last wife. She was the first survivor of her kind, because she proved that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it endures. If this story made you see history and yourself differently, tap follow or subscribe for more true stories of strategy, survival, and the women who refuse to disappear.